All right. I'd like to call to order our workshop Tuesday, April 16th, 2024 at 5:30. Brings us to item B, declaration of a quorum, 7 members present. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Item C, hearing of citizens. Anything? Nothing at the moment. And item D, workshop, consideration and discussion of an update on the 21 bond. Mr. Simak.
Yes, sir. Dr. Harkrider, President Horak, members of the board, thank you for this opportunity. We'll briefly provide you with an update tonight on the 2021 bond. As we are preparing to transition to work with the 2023 bond, we thought it would be good to provide you with a little bit of an update today. So we will briefly discuss bond balances, and then you'll see completed projects, and we'll talk a little bit about technology infrastructure. We've obviously completed phase 1 and 2 at Ames Consolidated High School, and we're gearing up for phase 3. The natatorium, we do have a little bit of work ongoing there, but it is the natatorium is complete. Pebble Creek Elementary School looks amazing. We have finally gotten rid of the Pepto-Bismol pink that Brad Lancaster chose for that building all those years ago. It looks tremendously better now. Southwood Valley Elementary School looks amazing, and then all of our security vegetables are currently installed, operational, and functioning the way they are supposed to. We'll also touch briefly excuse me. We'll also touch briefly on the general projects that we have upcoming this summer. Recently, you've approved HVAC projects at A&M Consolidated High School as well as Rock Prairie. We'll talk a little bit about the central office security gates. CTE Center, while it is, it's almost a completed project, we are 10 days away from the CTE Center completely being done in its entirety. And so we've got the Cypress Grove remodel, gym floor restorations, and also A&M Consolidated High School Phase 3. So as of March the 31st, if you may recall that this bond package was about $77.4 million. We are looking at a balance roughly of about $9 million. And so for the natatorium, that balance left there will all have to be spent on the natatorium. All that will be geared towards the natatorium. When you see the committed, that $71,150, while the natatorium is complete, we are getting ready to install a large drain pipe beneath the natatorium that will run out and really help alleviate some of the issues that we have there. Technology, personal devices. Technology is ongoing, and we'll talk a little bit about that on the next few slides. As switches and we need additional server space or capacity, we'll replace those, or if we need new cameras or if equipment gets old, we roll those in and we roll those out as needed. But that's where we stand currently with what's left in this bond package. For the completed projects related to technology. And so you'll notice that the network upgrades are at 75% complete. And every campus has received some type of work, whether it be additional switches, or maybe it's we replaced a server or we added extra capacity. We're not 100% complete yet because we are going to be, these are ongoing projects. So as we need to replace a server or as we need to add extra capacity, we'll have that money there and we'll be able to utilize it moving forward to take care of our district needs in regards to the network. Wi-Fi upgrades, we're 80% complete. And where we are lacking right now is Cypress Grove Intermediate School. We have added some additional access points there that were needed. The remainder of the access points will be added after the renovation is complete this summer to ensure that we stay out of the way of the contractors and don't risk anything getting broken, because we do have a wholesale renovation taking place at Cypress Grove this summer. Security cameras are very similar to the network. Majority of campuses have had work done. We are replacing cameras as needed. We're adding additional cameras when campus principals request them, if we can make that functionally work for the campus and for ourselves. But everything else you will see is complete thus far on the Proposition A of the $12.3 million for the technology infrastructure. As far as Prop B is concerned, we are entirely complete for the $4.26 million. 3,000 new student laptops have been deployed. We have all of our teacher laptops out, and we have upgraded the computer labs across the district. And so we are looking very good on that Prop B being complete. So major completed projects. As of this point, we've spent a total of $20.6 million on the following projects: A&M Consolidated Phase 1 and 2, the natatorium, Pebble Creek Elementary School, and Southwood Valley Elementary School. You'll notice the CTE Center is not yet on here. That's because we are 10 days away from that getting a rubber stamp of approval when we are supposed to be completed on April the 26th. And right now, all things are trending that way. We're working on punch list items, but we're looking very much like we're going to be on schedule, even ahead of schedule for the 26th. So here are just some additional pictures from the CTE Center. It really is an amazing center. It's a beautiful piece of land. We're very excited for what is there and what's coming with that program. It looks great. it's going to be a tremendous asset to the district, and we're excited for phase 2 to begin shortly with the bond from 2023. The natatorium, the picture on the left is actually a picture. It is not a drawing or any type of AI image. It is a picture that Mr. Ezra took, and he did a fantastic job. I chose that picture because I just think it's absolutely stunning. Having worked at College Station Middle School early on in my career, and to see the natatorium now, it is absolutely beautiful what they have put together there. And so we're really proud of that facility. So general projects upcoming for summer 2024. A&M Consolidated Phase 3 will be a big one for us this summer. It'll be a continuation of the interior finish replacements on the northern half of the building. This will include some with the cafeteria, the choir, band, and orchestra rooms. You may recall that Consol was going to be a total of 4 phases altogether, so we will have some additional work next summer. That'll be a continuation of any remaining areas throughout the building, and I'll point those areas out to you on a map here shortly. And there'll be some other miscellaneous items, such as the fire sprinkler system heads in a few places, and some LED lighting that needs to be replaced throughout the building. So this is phase 3 on the first floor. All of that highlighted yellow area is what we will be working on this summer. If you'll notice on the top side of that picture, where just above it, that's going to be the area that we're going to pick up in phase 4, and I can show you more of that in just a moment. And so this is going to be the second floor. This is a wholesale project. They will begin work just as soon as we get out of the building. We are coordinating with the campus already. They have their moving boxes. We're meeting tomorrow to put together more communication for them on how they are going to proceed with getting out of the areas in which we are going to remodel this summer. We want to make sure that we are clear and concise with our communication, so that way this is a smooth and efficient process for us to be able to allow the construction crew to get in there as quickly as possible. This is a picture of all 3 phases currently on the first floor. You'll notice again that area at the top, that'll be picked up in phase 4. The blue was phase 1. You may recall that was the restrooms. They do look tremendously better at A&M Consolidated High School. The green is what we picked up last year, and it looks fantastic. And the yellow is what we will do this summer. It is a lofty project, but it is something that the team has proven that they can get done, and we are very excited for that to happen for Consol this summer. That's what will be on the second floor. And then Cypress Grove Intermediate School. Cypress Grove Intermediate School is going to get an overhaul, a facelift. They are getting everything done. It is going to look tremendously better. The blue doors, the green trim, the old tile, all of it is getting done. New flooring, painting, casework, restrooms, you name it. Cypress Grove is going to look like a brand new shiny penny after the summer. And we again are coordinating tomorrow with them. We'll be sharing out communication with them on a plan on getting them moved out of the way, so that way they can get in and get started just as quickly as possible with the renovation that's going to happen there at at Cypress Grove. You'll notice there's 2 little areas in green. Those areas are going to be primarily renovated. They are not, they'll get a little bit, but they won't get as much to the extent because they've already had some things done previously. Gym floors, you approved this back in the March board meeting. These are the renderings of what it will look like at College Station High School and Consolidated. We have a timeline that was shared yesterday. This work will begin in about mid-June. They are coordinating, operations is coordinating with athletics to ensure that we have available camp space for all of our student athletes with the number of kids that participate in camps throughout the summer. There's already been some changes made. College Station High School will no longer have Lady Cougars across the baseline. They will maintain just Cougars on both baselines. And this work will, this work will also be at each of our 3 middle schools as well. Central office safety gates. And so on your left is an example of what you will see. So right now, if you've ever been to central office, obviously you have, at the end we have the gates that get chained up with a padlock. Yes, I know. Thank you, Dr. Payne. You'll notice that the central office safety gates, we have the padlocks right now. So you can find yourself in a predicament here. If you're ever here after hours, and you can ask Dr. Hickman and Ms. Parkinson, you can find yourselves in a little peculiar situation, and you might possibly be locked in the alleyway if you're not careful because of the padlock situation. So these egress handles will be will be added on this very soon. We're working on with a contractor right now to get those installed. What this will also do for us is this will help us bring central office to a single point of access, just like we have for all of our campuses. We won't have a security vestibule yet because, as you know, with the 2023 bond, we will at some point remodel central office. But this will allow us to funnel everybody that comes to central office in through a single point of access. Right now, we are the only facility that has failed the safety audit throughout the entire district. And that's because we have so many places or points of entry that people can enter. People that are new here have asked me, why is every door unlocked? Miss Wilson, our new CFO, coming to us from West Texas, we're 3 minutes into our first day, and she's like, every door's been unlocked. Why is every door unlocked? We're working on that. And so this will be a big first step in that. These will go at the end of each hallway. They'll be keyed. We're not going to use a proxy lock. They'll be keyed to the same keys that operate all the doors at central office. This will allow us to become more secure and more safe. And it'll, again, we'll be very effective and very clear with our communication, and we will share this out across the board. There's some other things that'll take place. We'll get some signage added to all of our windows, identifying public access points. What is not a public entrance, we'll do that in both English and Spanish. We'll have a sign added to the front of the building that points and makes it very clear as to where the entry is. And we are going to spruce up the entryway with what we have for our landscaping there to make it a focal point at the front of the building to help draw attention to where people should enter the building. Believe it or not, Chrissy Hester can tell you, not everybody that comes to central office is happy to see us. And so we would really like to be able to funnel them in through a single point of access, just like we do for our campuses. Questions?
It was a lot fast. It was good. I'll go back to my first question in the beginning. On the natatorium money, there's money left over. So I know we're doing the drain. Is there still going to be additional money left over? And that's an example of where that was a very specific, bond proposition. Can it be used for anything, any other athletics, or just the natatorium?
Just the natatorium.
Yeah.
It will all be funneled towards the natatorium. It doesn't all have to be used right this minute. There could be other repairs that come along. Obviously, owning a pool, there are things that come along with that that require maintenance from time to time. And so all that money will be focused and geared towards the natatorium.
So those funds could be held indefinitely for maintenance, improvements, so forth to natatorium?
It'll be ongoing, is the way I understand it. And so we could utilize those whenever we need to.
For the natatorium. Go ahead.
We haven't taken those funds to market, right? Or are we selling them as they're needed?
They've all been sold. So
Okay.
I had to look at Ms. Draws real quick, but all those have been sold.
Do you own the Wi-Fi question? I know that was something we were trying. Sorry, David's poking out over there. Were we able to do, with the money we had, everything that we, wanted to do originally? I mean, and I know it's kind of an ever-moving target with the technology, but, I know you mentioned it's not all done yet, but being able to get access for Wi-Fi in all of our campuses and all of our, facilities for folks to use once the 2021 bond funds are spent.
So yes, so we're never satisfied. We always want to improve more. So we took care of the base needs of all the campuses. So we still have some additions like Cypress Grove and things like that we'll do. We do have funding in the 2023 bond funds because it's continuously upgrades. It's just technology. We always have to do it. So we've taken care of what we had right now on our plate, the needs that we needed, but we will still always need to continue to grow. That's why some of that money is left over. It's 80%. Cypress Grove is not 20% of that fund. Cypress Grove is probably 10% of that funds, and the other 10% are going to be for additional access points that we need to place here and there, and as we grow, as we increase capacity, coverage, things like that. So yes.
Where are we at on the one-to-one device ratio for students?
Okay, so it wasn't one-to-one. It was one laptop cart per core classroom, and so we have most of it done. We're probably about a 90% ratio right now. We did that to get it off and running for testing. We're doing the board meeting. We will have iPads, which are going to take care of our kindergartners and first graders and little bitties. But we will have some additional holes that we're going to fill in this summer with additional laptops. So we're not completely one-to-one on a core classroom, cart per core classroom, but we're getting there. Like I said, the initial purchase was make sure we have enough devices for STAR testing, which is actually going on right now, in which we have met that need.
I guess I phrased that poorly. Just outside of even the bond fund expenditures, how far are we away from getting to that ultimate goal of a 1-to-1 ratio?
Like I said, I don't think we'll ever achieve a 1-to-1 because if you watch a lot of districts, they're starting to move away from 1-to-1 because it's just not sustainable to have that kind of model. And that's what we focused on the core classrooms. But we are right now at about a 90% ratio of one device per one student, if you look at the numbers based on enrollment. So we're close, but I don't think we'll ever achieve 1-to-1 just because it's a model that we're going to rely upon bonds for sustainability. And I don't know if we want to go down that path. That's a discussion we'll have to have with CNI
Okay.
before.
Just a quick comment on overall. I mean, obviously, a lot of that bond, you would look at some of the schools that it was spent on, and they are some of our older schools, right? I mean, you look at Consol and over 50 years old. Southwood Valley's now like 40 years old or something. I'm not exact. I mean, these are older schools. So, I mean, it's great, just great to see that we were able to get our community to support keeping up those facilities and doing what we need to in them. So it's good. I'm glad we'll get to add Cypress Grove to the list of that coming forward. So.
And I will add to that, you know, in 2021, when we were talking about redoing some of these schools, I think sometimes it's easy to go, well, what can paint and lighting and those things do? But having had the chance to walk through some of those schools now that they've been renovated, I mean, I was with another parent that said this looks like better than our newer schools. It's really impressive. So just a comment too that the money is going to good use and those schools look really, really great after we renovate them.
We would definitely say the bones are good with our campuses. Just, you know, you have kids running through a building long enough, you have kids running through your own house long enough, things need to get a facelift every now and again.
And I guess the only one I'd add too with Consol, it's hard sometimes to be patient because that one's so big that it can't happen overnight. You know, this is a multi-year project. And then you kind of touched on it, but not only is it the four phases from the 2021 bond, they're going to get some other major work done from the 2023 bond. So coordinating all that doesn't happen overnight, but it's what has been done looks wonderful. So thanks.
And I think we really appreciate the voters supporting us because I think a lot of questions I get is this seems like maintenance kind of funding. And I think it's good to highlight here that the state is chipping away at our M&O, the maintenance and operations piece. So going forward, it's not that y'all don't have a plan and a capital structure evaluation. You know what's coming up for maintenance. You know what needs to be, like tracks need to be replaced every 8 to 10 years. But with the M&O structure as it is right now set forth by the state, we can't self-fund without the taxpayer support. So I think kudos to y'all. It's not because we've been putting it off. It's we got to get the pools of money to be able to do it systematically.
Okay, and I just have to follow on that. I mean, even some of the pieces that you don't even see in your presentation are not the exciting things, like the roofs and the HVACs and all those things that we also have to, that are very expensive that we have to buy for our facilities. Yeah, good.
Anything else? We appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Thanks for the assist, brother.
Item 2, receive a report related to the School Health Advisory Council, SHAC. Mr. Starnes.
Okay, good evening, Dr. Harkrider, President Horak, and members of the board. So I'm going to, I am the district representative for our SHAC committee, the School Health Advisory Council. And so I'm just going to give you a brief overview of kind of what we discussed this year and be glad to answer any questions at the end. So what is a SHAC? You can kind of read what TEA says there for you, but basically all school districts have to have a SHAC. This is a committee that's made up of, yes, employees, but then also more so our community members. And so we met 5 times this year, and 4 are required, but in our bylaws, we added a 5th meeting. So we met 5 times this year. This information is also found on our the SHAC webpage through the CSISD site. All of our meetings are available there. Our agendas are posted for the open meetings requirements there, audio recordings and things like that. So anyone that can't attend, they can go back and listen to the discussions and participate that way. We no longer do remote meetings for these. They are in person. I think that was something that was done from COVID, and we transitioned away from that. The purpose of SHAC, or the focus of SHAC, is to really focus on the whole school, whole community, whole child model. And so there's a graphic there for you, but obviously our focus is on the student, the individual student, and providing a healthy, safe, engaged, so on and so forth, in educational environment, but then even expanding that. How do we do that when it becomes community involvement, family engagement, and then also looking at our employee wellness? And so looking at those different facets, and then all the while engaging our community to really provide those things for that student. And so they are the focus of everything that we do and discuss. Our SHAC membership for this year, 32 members comprised our membership, 9 district employees, 21 non-district employees, and then 2 school board trustees were a part of that group. And that's actually a little bit of an increase in membership from the previous year. We had a couple of members really gung-ho about it and went to PTO meetings and promoted membership, and so that yielded us a few more active members this year. So some things that we kind of focused on or discussed throughout our meetings this year. One is to continue to increase our membership, and then also representation across CSISD, so that the members who are active are not just from one pocket of our community. They hopefully will be a more of a cross-section, so that multiple voices are heard and multiple viewpoints are heard. And so we've looked at that. We implemented, no, not yet. We implemented a new bylaw. We implemented new bylaws for the SHAC committee that were never put in place before, and so we did that. We had a subcommittee that met last year, formed those bylaws, and put them into place this year. Finally, we did complete the wellness plan and evaluation for CSISD. That is typically done every year. The SHAC committee hasn't always participated in that process, but we did complete that this year. So some discussion topics. First, one of the topics that was discussed at numerous meetings were the use of cell phones and the use of cell phones in the classroom. Some statistics there for you. 97% of 11 to 18-year-olds use their phones during the school day. And what I saw, because I did this data research, was that on average it's about 45 minutes of phone time per day. And so obviously there were some that were on it less and then some on it a lot more, but that's your average. On average, students pick up their phones during the school day 51 times. And so the range was anywhere from 2 to 498 times they looked at their cell phone. And so obviously, when you look at that, then the discussion was based on how are our students able to manage that distraction? Are they engaged? And there's some things that Harvard has put out. Some people call it the ability to multitask, but really it's not multitasking. And so it's the conversation was, are we engaging our students in meaningful lessons that don't bore them, if you will, and then they think about using those, looking at their cell phone. But 77% of our school districts across the country have added rules to prohibit the use of devices for non-educational purposes. That is a statistic from 2021, I believe. And so that number is going up as school districts continue to see this issue. And so I think from the SHAC committee for CSISD, continue to look at and evaluate cell phone policies to limit distractions and off-task behavior during those instructional times. So there are times where use of cell phone is appropriate in the classroom. But then there's other times where it's not. This was another initiative that was brought to us, the Safe Streets for All. Basically, community members expressed concerns for the safety of students and families wanting to ride their bikes to school. And so Safe Streets is a federal grant-based program to improve safety on the roads and streets through safer people, roads, and vehicles. So education, advocacy, but then also working with the cities, municipalities, and figuring out how we can provide safe streets. Did discuss the use of bike lanes on roads currently. Obviously, those are city roads or county roads being used for drop-off and pickup lines, and how to really keep those areas protected for those bikers that are riding their bikes to school. We recommended to the membership that they appeal to the city to address those issues, since the roads are the city's. And then again, for CSISD, recommend to have a plan to ensure safety of students arriving and leaving school on bikes. So just so that they're protected and those types of things. So again, these are just things that we have discussed. The SHAC committee did take a vote, and we are making this recommendation for you to consider. That is all that we can do, is to basically develop, distribute, and enforce a policy to limit the screening of paid video advertising presented by any faculty, staff, or substitute member of the district during school hours or in the classroom. Basically, this stemmed from when you play a YouTube video that's not downloaded, you're streaming it, sometimes there are advertisements that come through. We have no way of really filtering those. We don't know what's going to come up. They come up from an algorithm. And so we had a parent that was passionate about this and appealed to the SHAC committee, and that's why we're making this recommendation. Again, it is simply a recommendation for you to consider. I have talked to David about, is there a filtering process for this? There is one. It is rather expensive. And so if there's any other alternatives, then, to explore those. That's it. That's all. So I appreciate all of you, and any questions?
I'm excited. I'll say I'm excited about the first two, y'all are discussion. The third one, I would need to learn more about it. It seems new and like a reasonable thing a reasonable question to ask and investigate, but don't know much about how we would deal with that. As far as the cell phones, I don't know if y'all do too. That is still, it came from SHAC a few years ago. I don't know how many now, maybe lots of years ago, about where we have rules about cell phones. Now, do those need to be updated and I think, and looked at again, probably. Again, times change. Again, it's a balance. We want our kids to learn how to use their devices well, but but should there be limits? Of course, yeah, and maybe they're out of hand. But, and as we have more, like you just talked about, right? As we have more devices that we provide for the students in the classroom, right, then we are able to have the students use those devices and not necessarily have to, pull out their own. And then, of course, when they're on their own, where they're on the district's devices, we can control those more. So, I think. That's one of the benefits of having more of the district devices, is that we can limit some of that outside stuff. So I'm glad that discussion is happening. I think we should probably, as a board or we should discuss it too, probably, or at least the administration should. And then I'm also excited about the Safe Street stuff. I talk about that a lot. I know a lot of it falls on the city, but, we talk about safety with like our when our school bus is, but, we've got to get, that's our part that we control, but the kids who walk and ride and even get out of their cars and walk to our campuses, I feel responsible for them too. I mean, I do. I feel like we got to keep an eye on them too and help make safe ways for them to get to our schools. So I'm glad you're also talking about that. Good. And also glad that your attendance and membership was improved. Thank you for those efforts, definitely, in getting the folks, because it's hard to say much is more important than everything's important, but the health of our students is important so they can learn. Thanks.
On that last item, is there a timeline on that?
It's just something for you to consider. I don't think that that's the only recommendation we have, is that you consider it. I'm not sure if there's what we can do that's feasible. But this was something that was voted on by the SHAC membership to make this recommendation. So
It's not been a widespread issue
That's
in
what I
the
was gonna
district.
ask.
No, this was actually from,
much is that
I
utilized?
believe, one particular parent. The YouTube channels and things that we use, there's some of that advertising that was there. It's not inappropriate per se. This particular parent, the student, was asking about getting something that they saw on the advertisement, and so the parent didn't allow the child to view that sort of stuff. But it was nothing inappropriate at all. And so that's kind of part of your platform. When you do that, that's how they make money. There's advertising pieces that are part of it. We use YouTube throughout the district, but the usage would vary by teacher and how many kids are actually getting exposed to that or not.
If we can get those VRBO commercials off YouTube, that'd be great. So we can get on that. Thanks.
Well, and I want to say, and I'm not necessarily agreeing with that particular parent, and correct me if I'm paraphrasing incorrectly their concerns, but it was almost when those advertisements pop up, does it come across as this is something the school district is supporting? And that was where I think some of her concerns came from, was, if the school district is supporting this product over this product, or this news source over this news source, or whatever it might be. So that's kind of what I heard as part of it.
Well, and I think that the argument originally was, well, we have no way of controlling, or we don't know what's going to come up, where I think through my discussions with David and others, it was, well, there is a filter. It doesn't take them all out, but there is a filter in place already that does protect the kids. But there are yes, but it's still advertising.
Mm-hmm. Did the SHAC show any interest in actually developing suggestions as to changes in the cell phone policies?
I think that the recommendation was to look at it. I think that that's a deep dive, because you've got different levels, grade levels, and what's appropriate at the high school level may not be appropriate at the elementary or intermediate level. And so how do you scaffold that to where it is appropriate? What limits are there? There are some classrooms that cell phone use may be appropriate for whatever they're doing. And then in another classroom, it's not appropriate. So I think it's hard to make a policy that's holistic, just like everyone follows that. I think the autonomy that our teachers currently have in choice, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, when is it appropriate, is important for, I think, not being a campus administrator, but as a former, used to be one, I think that that's important, because they're the ones that are policing that. And so they have to have some ownership in that too.
Yeah, I think that they're not going away, right? So they have to look at the integration of when, and you've got classroom management, but support, remember, our role is not management.
Yeah, the other piece of that, because you could do a deep dive into cell phone policies and you can read across. There's different districts doing different things. There's some recently I've seen that is absolutely zero cell phones, can't have them in any building. Well, that's a whole nother set of circumstances that you could create when you do a no tolerance policy of kids walking home after school. Where do they put their phone? And policies are only as good as those who are enforcing them. So if I've got 140 teachers at a high school and we do a zero policy cell phone, no kids can have any cell phones anyway, I think we can all agree all teachers are not going to enforce that. So then it becomes, it's really not a policy at all. It's a suggestion, and then administrators are putting out fires of who's enforcing and who's not, and it becomes a discipline issue with the staff versus what's best for kids. We, as a leadership team, have talked about, I've had a few teachers ask about cell phone policies. We'll take a dive into our current policy. I think the first thing to me I'd like to do is a survey to parents. What are their thoughts on cell phone use during school and get some feedback from there. So if we're looking at tweaking something, we're kind of making an informed decision outside of just our staff, but what do parents think?
And we always told our teachers, you know, if the student is engaged in what's going on, then they're less likely to be distracted. Are we going bell to bell? Do we have meaningful, engaging lessons that are going on? I think that would curb the off-task behavior better than any policy that we could create, in my opinion. And so I think, you know, we ran into issues where you put your cell phone in the little shoe cubby. Well, then we had issues with people stealing other people's cell phones, and then who's liable for those phones because we made the kids put them in there. Well, so you're, again, opening up another set of issues. And so I would fall back on how's our instruction, and how's our engagement with the students.
And kids now multitask quite a bit. So a lot of our teachers, if they pass out on assignment, kids can have earbuds in, they listen to music and they work, and they're not saying a word, and they're not used to working in silence. The way, I don't think many of them, or some of them will go to the library for silence, but many times they'll have earbuds in. They're always listening or doing something. So it's not as easy as just canceling them. Is it a distraction? Yes, it absolutely can be. Just like Kevin said, the engagement in the classroom really dictates quite a bit of that.
And I think you, go ahead.
I think this next year is going to be interesting now that we're in the core classroom is going to have devices. I think that's going to have less of a dependency on a kid to pull out their personal cell phone. And on a side note, I talked to a campus administrator and she said, if we did take away phones, there's some kids that actually have burner dummy phones. So you take away their main phone and they still have another one, which is really sad. So I think it would be a battle. I think we would conquer one problem and then we're just going to face another one. And you're asking these teachers then to get off task and off focus because they're now policing cell phones versus educating.
But I do think, in addition to that, what I was going to say is it's important for us to have the right devices and to be able to encourage our students to use our school devices for their assignments. Because I know when I talk to parents, sometimes they're frustrated because they feel like they have to have their kids have their own device, or they have to have certain apps or certain things on those devices for them to be able to participate in school. And maybe that's a parent that is a little more careful with technology with their kids. So I just think it's also important for us not just to think about cell phones, but to think about how are they actually doing their work? What devices are they using in the classroom? Are we providing enough as a district so they're not dependent on those devices?
Josh, I think it's a great time to start a podcast so that students will start listening.
They would have to be really bored to listen to me. But yeah, I mean, I think it's there's so many different competing aspects to this because you do have we've got part of our strategic plan, which is incorporating technology and because that's how kids learn. And then at the same time, you see studies of the mental health effects of a kid who's picking up their phone 458 times during the day and so forth. And so there's definitely no easy answers, but I like the fact that y'all are delving into a little bit more to see, if there could be any changes and what effects those would have.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's basically what I'm saying too. It is an ever-changing world with technology and finding that balance of how we address it with our students. And I mean, and it probably isn't a one-size-fits-all for, elementary kids versus high school kids. I think our previous, I don't know if it was policy or rules, Eva, just was definitely different by grade level, right? Kind of a different suggested amount of use. And I think it's just part of what we have to do now if we're having technology in our classrooms. It's here to stay. Yeah. So thanks.
These are positive conversations to have, just to.
And really get the right people within our district to have those discussions. And I like you'll talk to the parents. I will agree. I do also hear that, lots of parents would be unhappy if they couldn't get a hold of their kid in the middle of the day too. That's.
Anything else? All right, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That'll bring us to item E, adjourn.